Welcome back. In this episode, what we're going to do is we're going to build off of the last project that we just did, wherein we built a die that if you shake will show a different number using dot notation. What we're going to do this time is we're going to send that number from one microbit to another microbit using radio waves. And when it comes over to the other microbit, we're going to make this microbit show the number, and we're going to play a different sound depending on what number was sent over. This is kind of like making a wireless doorbell. So let's demonstrate how this might work. I shake this microbit, I get a 4, and you can see and hear that I'm playing a sound based on the 4 that was sent over. And if I were to shake it again and get a different number, I get a whole different sound. So that's a lot of fun. Let's get to it. In order to be successful with this project, what you're going to need 2 microbits. You're going to want the battery packs for both microbits. You're going to need 2 alligator clips. It doesn't matter what color they are. And you're going to want a USB cable so that you can transfer the file from your microbit to your from your computer to your microbit. You also will need a pair of headphones with an auxiliary cable that you can connect so that you can play the sounds through your headphones. And lastly, you're going to need the last project that we did with the die. We're going to build right off of that project. So let's get to it and let's start coding. In order to do this, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to makecode.microbit.org. So I'm going to type in makecode.microbit.org, and this will take us directly to our coding interface. Instead of clicking on New Project, I'm going to go back to the last project that I worked on, which was the die demo. Go ahead and click on the die demo and open up that project. If you haven't done this project yet, make sure you go back and do it in the previous video. So we have this project, and you can see I've got 2 different series of codes, 2 different events. I have an onStart event and I have an onShake event. And both events I can tell have a comment on them because they have this little comment icon in the upper left-hand corner. So if I wanted to see the comment, I can go ahead and click on the comment and I can see what's in there. So for example, I'm going to shake on this. I'm going to click on the onShake comment here, and I'm going to add one more thing to my plan. When I shake the microbit right now, it's choosing a random integer between 1 and 6, and it's depending on the number chosen, it's showing the corresponding number using dots on my microbit. Well, what I want to do in addition to this is I want to then send that number to another microbit. Perfect. So that's all I need to do for the onShake. One of the things that's really important to do when you're working with radio is to remember that you are working with both a transmitter and a receiver. This is kind of like when you get into your car and you listen to the radio on your car. Your car receives the transmission that's coming from some radio station. And if you want to listen to a specific station, you need to make sure that you're both tuned in to the same frequency. In order to do that with microbits, we're going to go over to the radio blocks and click on the radio blocks. And the very first block allows us to set our radio group. This is like setting the channel for our radio station. So the transmitter, right when I start up my transmitter, I'm going to set my radio group to 1. I need to make sure that my receiver is also tuned in to group 1 in order to receive this information. So the other thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure to send the number to another microbit. If I look at my code with onShake, what it does is it chooses a number and displays that number. After I've done all of that, I'm going to go ahead and simply send that number over the radio waves. So I'm going to click on my radio blocks, and the second block down says radio send number. You can see I can send all sorts of things. I could send a string. I could send what's called a key value pair, so I can name some sort of variable that I'm going to send across and then send it. And I also have options for what to do when I receive a radio signal, which we'll use over in our receiver in just a minute. So I'm going to go ahead right now and grab radio send number and put that right before the pause in my code. So after I've shown the LED, I'm going to send that number across. Now, if you remember, what is the number that we're sending? We don't know if it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, but we have stored that number in a variable. So I'm going to go over and click on my variables, and I'm going to find my number and pull it out of here. And now I'm going to send the number, my number, whatever that number is. The other thing I'm going to do here, right now I'm pausing for 1 second or half a second after the shake. I'm going to make sure and pause for 2 seconds so I don't accidentally shake it and then start music and then the music starts again a little bit too soon. So I'm just going to give myself a 2-second pause in between shakes to make sure that I'm not making these things happen too quickly. And that's it. That's all I have to change on this first program is I need to set the radio group and then I need to send whatever information I'm going to send over the radio waves. So with that being done, choose one of your microbits and let's upload this program from your computer to the microbit. So the way that I do that is I'm going to connect my micro USB cable to my microbit. And I can see here it's lighting up. Now what I need to do is download that to my microbit itself. So I'm going to go over here on this download button. And it's going to look for my microbit, and in my case it found it right away. If it doesn't find it right away, go over to your locations in your sidebar or whatever your drives might be if you're on a Windows machine, and find the microbit. This will download it directly to the microbit. Again, you can also save it to your computer and then drag it to your microbit. It's up to you and how you do it. In this case, I'm going to download the program to my yellow microbit that I have right here directly. That'll take a minute to save. You can see it has the blinking yellow lights, and that means it's transferring the data. When those lights are done blinking, I'll know that it's done transferring data. It looks like it's done. Now I get a message from my computer that I ejected a disk improperly because it completely shut down and restart the microbit. But I'm done with that microbit. So this is my transmitter, and I'm going to remember that the yellow microbit was my transmitter and put it off to the side. Now that I have that, I need to start a new program. So I'm going to go back to home, and I'm going to click on new project, and I'm going to call this project my die receiver. And this will be the die that I create that receives the information from my die demo. Go ahead and click on create. Now that I've got a project here, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of a forever loop. I don't need it in this case. And on start, I'm going to go ahead and add a comment to on start, and I'm going to make sure to set the radio group. I don't know that there's anything else that I need to do on start, so I'm going to go ahead and just close that comment, and I'm going to find radio. And if you'll remember, in our transmitter, we set the radio group to 1. So I need to make sure to set my radio group on my receiver also to 1. Now the other thing that I want to do is I want to do something when I receive that number. I can find a when I receive a radio signal over in the radio blocks. So click on the radio blocks area and look for on radio received number. You'll notice it's about the third event down, on radio received number. That's what I want. So I'm going to drag this out here and have on radio received number. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and right click and add a comment to indicate what I would like to do when I receive a number. In this case, what I want to do is, first thing I want to do is I want to display the number. And I'm just going to display the number in digits instead of blocks this time. And then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say play a different song for each number. And I think that's it. That's all that I want to do. So I'm going to go ahead and close that comment. And now I'm going to, actually I'm going to open it back up and see what I first said. I'm going to display the number in digits. So let's do that first. If you remember, you can display a number by going over to your basic blocks. The very first block in basic is show number. So I'm going to pull that out. And now it says on radio received number, show number 0. Well, what is the number I want to show? It's going to be some number 1 through 6. but I don't know which one it's going to be. I need to have this in a variable of some sort. Well, instead of creating my own variable this time, I'm going to use the variable that was sent to me over the radio. And I can find that variable right here on radio received number. As I hover over received number, you'll notice it has a bunch of little white dots around it. If I were to click and drag, you can see I can actually drag an instance of that variable right from this on radio received event. So I'm going to put that right into my show number. And now I can see on radio received, show number, received number. Fantastic. Let me go back at my plan and see what else I'm going to do. I'm also going to play a different song for each number. So let me close this down. And now I need to play a different song. Well, if you remember before, anytime that I have some sort of logic that is an if, then, else, I can find that over in the logic blocks. So click on logic, and I can notice here there's an if true, then do something. There's also if true, then do something with an else statement. And that's what I want because I have several conditions that I want to check. So I'm going to drag this over here. Now, what is the condition I want to check? I want to know if my received number equals 1, then I want to play whatever my sound is for 1. So I need to have some sort of comparison, some sort of logical comparison between this variable I have, received number, and an actual number. I'm going to go over to logic, and I can see I have my comparison operators right here in the middle of this logic set of blocks. I want the equals comparison, and I'm going to drag this out and put that right where it says if true. Now right now it says if 0 equals 0, that's always going to be true. What I want instead is I want to know if received number equals 1. Well, I need to go grab another instance of the received number variable, which I can do right at the top by hovering over, clicking, and dragging received number, and putting that variable right in here. Now, if received number equals 1, then what I want to do is play a sound. You can find your sounds over in the music blocks. I can create my own sound. So, for example, I'll pull a melody out here, and if I were to click on the editor for the melody, I can create a sound by clicking on these blocks. That sounds like a good sound to me. It's going to be super simple. It'll just go up 3 notes, and then again, and then down 2 notes. So let's go ahead, and that's our if received number equals 1, then it's going to play that melody. Now all I need to do is I need to do this same thing for my other numbers 2 through 6. If I'm going to do the same thing, I can just use a copy and paste function. So in this case, I have this whole condition here, if received number equals 1. I'm going to right click on that and duplicate. I'm going to pull that down. Oh, but I don't, it looks like I don't have another if condition. So in order to get that, click on the plus button at the bottom of your else. I'm going to move this off to the side. And we're going to keep doing that. I'm just going to click on plus several times. So that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I've got a 6th one if it's not 1 through 5. Perfect. So now I'm going to pull that if, else if, and put received number right into this condition. Instead of 1, now I need to have it play 2, and I'm going to play a different melody. I'm going to duplicate that melody, and I'll change the melody. Maybe this time I'll go down first. Kind of the opposite of the first one. Perfect. So now I've got that for 2, and I'm just going to repeat that for each of these different blocks. Oops, make sure you don't drag your blocks out from each other. I'm going to have to put them back together. Received number goes in here. I need to change that number to 3. I'm going to play a different melody, duplicate my melody, and put it in here. Maybe for a 3, I'll just go. All right, so that's my melody for 3. I'm going to copy this again. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to put my condition in here. I'm going to change the right side of that equation to 4. And then I'm going to play a different song. But this time, I'm going to duplicate this block. I'm going to pull it in here. And when I go to edit it, instead of the editor, there's actually some other pre-made songs in the gallery. So maybe I'm going to try this one. sounds good. So I'm going to pull out mystery, and that will be my sound for 4. Now for 5, I'm going to go ahead and copy this again. I'm going to duplicate, put my condition in the middle, put a 5 in there, and this time instead of playing a melody that I make up or one of these pre-made melodies, I'm actually going to play a song that's pre-programmed in here as well. So if I go to music, and if I scroll down, I can see there is an area that says Melody Advanced, and I can start a melody for some sort of a longer song. So in this case, this is da-da-da-dum, so it's like da-da-da-dum, da-da-da-dum, and I can indicate how many times I want that to repeat. In this case, it's just going to repeat once. There's a lot of different pre-made songs that are in here. There's Entertainer, which is like da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So there's lots of different songs. You can play around with them and have a lot of fun. If number isn't 1 through 5, I'll go ahead and maybe I will play another song to be, let's see, what song do we play here? We'll pull out a pre-made song, and I'm going to play the blues. How about that? So if we get a 6, we get the blues. So let's just review what this code does. On start, this is the receiver, and it's going to set its radio group to 1 because I know that my transmitter is transmitting on group 1. On radio received, I'm going to show whatever number it is that I've received, and then based on that number, I am going to check what the number is and play a melody accordingly. Now, I want to point out something here. If you go over and you look at your simulator, the simulator has actually now shown you how to connect your wires to your headphones. Now, that's great because it's done that because it knows that because we used a radio code that you're going to need to connect it. So you'll notice it says connect one wire from the 0 pin over to the top of your, the very top area of your auxiliary cord. Now your auxiliary cord might have 1 band, it might have 2 bands, or it might even have 3 bands. Each band is actually a different channel. So if you've got 2 bands like I do, that means that this is maybe a pair of headphones or an auxiliary cord that supports stereo sound. The top is 1 channel. I don't know if that's left or right. The middle is another channel of sound, and the bottom is the ground. In fact, you'll notice on the simulator that it is connecting the ground cable from the very bottom of your auxiliary cord over to the last connector on your microbit, which says GND, and that stands for ground. What that does is it sends out an electrical signal through 0. That signal comes to your auxiliary cord, and it leaves the auxiliary cord out through that ground wire and back into the ground connection. And that creates the full loop that we need in order to send the electricity through to play this sound. So let's go ahead and download to another microbit. I'll use my red microbit this time to download this code. So first thing you need to do is connect your microbit to your computer and download that microbit to the computer. Once that's downloaded, or you need to make sure to find it. Right now it says it's on downloads. I need to find my microbit on my computer, so I'm going to find microbit, and I'm going to download it directly. You'll notice that it is blinking yellow. That means it's transferring all this data from this new program that I created for it. And it's transferring. Great. Once it's transferred, we are ready to test this out. So I'm going to disconnect from the micro USB, and now I've got 2 microbits here. If I want to see if this works, I can shake one microbit, and hopefully I get something similar on the other microbit. It looks like I accidentally hit the reset button on the first microbit. So I've got a 3 over here, and I got a 3 over here. If I shake it again, I've got a 2, and sure enough, I've got a 2. What I don't hear, though, is sound. So that's because I haven't actually connected my auxiliary cord through my alligator cable. So what I need to do is connect my alligator cables. It doesn't matter which color you use, just make sure that you're consistent. So I'm going to connect my white cable I've got here from my 0 to the top of my auxiliary cord. And I'm going to take my green, put that on the bottom of my auxiliary cord, and connect that to my ground cable. So this is kind of, you can see the connection between the microbit and the auxiliary cable. So there's your microbit, and there's your auxiliary cable, and it matches the simulation that we saw. Now I need to make sure that my headphones are connected. With my headphones connected, I'm going to go ahead and shake my transmitter and see what sound I get. Okay. Every time I shake it, I'm getting a different sound. Fantastic. There's so many applications for this. Hopefully, you start thinking of a lot of different types of applications of how you can use the microbits to send one value from one microbit to another microbit. For example, I had a student last semester who decided that she was going to teach a unit. I better disconnect my sound. She was going to teach a unit on greater than and less than, on inequalities, with her young students. And she was going to shake her microbit and send the number over to all of the students' microbits in the classroom. And the students would look at that number and determine if it was greater than or less than a number that they had on their worksheet. There's lots of different things you can do with this. The world is your oyster, as it were, right? So this is how you transfer information from one microbit to another using radio waves. Go out, have fun, and let's see what you program.